Inhumans used to be considered the old new hotness at Marvel Comics, and as a result they got a slew of amazing characters added to their ranks. And now it is time for me to introduce you to some of them. Welcome back, Nerd Squad, it's me, Amanda. Which Inhuman do you think is the most underrated, and why? Number 10. Lash. When fans of the Inhumans think of power, they usually think of Lash. However, not everyone out there is a hardcore Inhumans fan, which is why he's going to make our cut today. Casual fans of the Inhumans might not be as familiar with this character, who made his first appearance in Inhuman issue number 1 in 2014. Lash is a powerful teleporter who can seemingly teleport anywhere he pleases, although I don't think he can teleport and bring others along for the ride. And he also has another power which I think is one of the most useful, although not my ultimate favorite power in comics: energy conversion. Lash can both absorb energy and manipulate it, taking it into himself and using it to bolster himself, create shields, or outputting it to disintegrate his enemies, which is typically what he does. And yeah, it's pretty scary stuff. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love the Inhumans and you would love to see us give them some more love, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 9. ISO. ISO is Chow Yen. Her power is super cool and also reminds me of another favorite Marvel character of my own, Invisible Woman. Similar to how Invisible Woman can use her force field abilities to sort of crush those in her way, ISO can control the air pressure around her, using it to crush whatever or whoever might be in her way. She can also manipulate liquid pressures, even using her powers to manipulate one's blood pressure, which is pretty powerful stuff. Blood pressure, you could really mess someone up with that. Or maybe even help someone, you know? You have high blood pressure, you could hang out with ISO and she'd be like, don't worry, I'll just lower that for you, no problem. Number 8. Ulysses. Ulysses Kane is a precognitive Inhuman, born with the ability to absorb data from around himself and using his precognitive senses to basically analyze it with his own special predictive algorithm, which then gives him visions in the forms of dreams to show him what is likely to happen in the real world. Over time, Ulysses was able to use his power to focus on specific individuals or events, drawing them into his dreams and seeing what the future might hold for them or for those specific things coming up. Because of this coveted power set, he became the main point of conjecture in Civil War II. Here, Captain Marvel's Carol Danvers and Iron Man's Tony Stark fought over whether or not to trust in Ulysses' visions and powers and act on his predictions, in essence punishing people for crimes they had not yet committed in order to prevent tragedies from coming about, or waiting till said crimes had been committed before apprehending potential criminals, thereby risking possible tragedy, but of course with the hope that these visions may not always be conclusive. That was kind of what Civil War II was all about, even though I feel like if you read Civil War II you're probably gonna be like, what is really happening here? Number 7. Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan might be one of the most well-known characters on this list, and yet many still don't know that she is actually an Inhuman. Especially now that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kamala has actually been suggested to be not an Inhuman, but a mutant. Possibly the first mutant we've seen in the MCU. I guess, unless we're counting, you know, stuff that we've seen in Deadpool, but I don't know if Deadpool was MCU at that time, but now Deadpool is, so figure that out. While fans of the character who do know of her ties to the Inhuman lineage might be adverse to this change in her origins, in reality that was actually what creators of the comic book character wanted for her. Kamala Khan was originally created by collaborative efforts between Sana Amanat, Stephen Wacker, G. Willow Wilson, Adrian Alfona, and Jamie McKelvey. Initially the pitch was that she be a mutant, but due to the push for Inhumans at Marvel Comics, as mutants had been sold off to Fox and to preserve profits were being downplayed at the time, Kamala was made an Inhuman instead, but that wasn't really what they wanted for her to begin with. She gained her body morphing powers after being exposed to Terrigen mists while out at night in Jersey City. Whole thing that happened. Terrigen mist came down to Earth and then everybody was becoming an Inhuman. Number 6. Inferno. Inferno is like the Human Torch or Sunfire if the two were maybe even cooler than they already are. Or should I say hotter. He is Dante Pertuz, and he is known by the codename Inferno. His seemingly fire-based powers are interesting because they are not in fact fire-based, but are actually plasma-based. Specifically, plasma flames. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm pretending that plasma you can move it around. I mean, he kinda can. Inferno can use his manipulation of fiery plasma to engulf himself in flames, create volcanoes at will, and even heal, regenerating his limbs. Number 5. Ahura. Ahura is the son of Blackagar Boltagon, known for being one of the most powerful Inhumans to have ever existed and also the Inhuman King, and is also the son of his queen and wife Medusa. Most people might not not think of Ahura when it comes to his strength, because more casual Marvel fans, well, they might not even know that he exists. Ahura was actually born against the will of the Genetic Council, who basically approve all Inhuman baby conceptions. However, despite being royals, Medusa and Black Bolt went against them, and as such, Ahura was born on Earth as opposed to in Attilan. Ahura's powers have changed a bunch over the years, with him at times being more powerful and less powerful. Initially, he had powers similar to his father, being born with his own quasi-sonic scream, made possible by Ahura's ability to harness ambient particles and electrons with his speech center as well, presumably. These powers were inherent and existed without Ahura being exposed to the Terrigen Mist, which is pretty wild for Inhumans. After he was exposed though, his powers changed into his evil eye powers, which were more psionic in nature and similar to his uncle Maximus's power set. Currently, Ahura's powers allow him to split his soul. A future version of himself once used this power set to create a whole army made up entirely of pieces of his own soul, so like made up entirely of himself, or himselves. This power set seems to be more focused in the sub-psionic category of the astral area. Astral area of psionics. Astral plane. I always want to say the astral plane, but his powers don't only exist on the astral plane, they're just kind of like astral in nature. Number 4. Quake. Quake is kind of a confusing character, but let me try to explain. Initially, when it came to her, we knew her as a superpowered agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, she's actually been an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. since she was like a teenager. Where her powers came from was a bit of a mystery. All we knew to begin with was she definitely wasn't a mutant. When this was suggested, she actually denied having a mutant status, but didn't offer an explanation for where her powers originated, causing fans to speculate on whether they were acquired from a freak accident, inherited in some way genetically, or actually based in secret tech that she used. Eventually, it was revealed that Daisy Johnson's seismic powers were likely Inhuman in origin, with her mother having possessed Inhuman genes that were passed on to Daisy, which is also kind of how Daisy is like such a badass. Like, she's a really good fighter and really fit because also Inhuman. However, the interesting thing is she never even underwent Terrigenesis to activate said genes. Instead, it was apparently her father's experiments on himself that caused her Inhuman genes to be active at birth. How Inhumans work, but I guess for Daisy that's how it works, apparently. Breaking all the rules. Number 3. Reader. Reader is a reality manipulator, initially belonging to the lore tribe of Inhumans. He was kind of short-lived as a character and not many people know about him, but he's super cool. Reader's real name was unrevealed, and he first appeared back in 2014 in Inhuman issue number 4, created by Charles Soule and Ryan Stegman. What a awesome team of creatives, by the way. What an awesome character too. The interesting thing about Reader's powers is that, as his name implies, his reality warping powers manifest based on what he reads. What's even cooler is that Reader's understanding of the words that he reads will also determine and influence how his powers manifest. And it isn't like he reads a phrase in a book and it manifests, not like a unicorn flies by and then that happens, but more that he reads a single word and then uses it to manipulate the world around him, his own abilities, and the way he perceives things. So it'd be more like he'd read fly and then something can fly. You know what I mean? Number 2. Maximus the Mad. Maximus the Mad is definitely an Inhuman who gets underestimated on the regular, I feel. Usually because on the outside he does not appear to be super powerful. But he's the perfect example of the saying, don't judge a book by its cover, by its crazy cover. He is the younger brother to Blackagar Boltagon and considered to be Inhuman royalty. Maximus is mainly powerful because he's a super genius, but he can also manipulate the minds of others, taking control of them, which is pretty wild. If you haven't guessed already, Maximus tends to be presented as a villain in Inhuman stories, with him often opposing Black Bolt and attempting to take the crown for himself. But he can also be a powerful ally to Black Bolt at times as well. In terms of his threat level, it's pretty great when he's acting as a villain. On multiple occasions, Maximus has created inventions powerful enough to threaten all of mankind and all of Earth. He has even been able to do so as well with limited resources, while under a time crunch, or even while imprisoned, which is pretty wild. I mean, I feel like if you can make a time machine in like 2 hours, like, watch out for that guy, you know what I mean? Number 1. Karnak. Karnak is a cousin to the royal family, being the cousin of Black Bolt and Medusa, the ruling monarchs. He is probably one of the more well-known Inhumans who made our cut, but still, there are probably a lot of people out there who don't know Karnak, because there are still a lot of people out there, you know, just getting to know the Inhumans in general. Karnak, however, is definitely an Inhuman you will want to check out if you are newer to the group. He is a badass and has powers similar to Daisy Johnson's in regards to them both getting physical and fighting fighting prowess, or an edge to that at least, from their inhuman metabolism. Karnak also has complete control over his body and mind, and can sense weakness in anything he desires to sense weakness in, including his opponents and even concepts and ideologies, which I think is super powerful. Like if you could just, someone's like, I think we should do this idea, and you're like, well, that's gonna be a huge problem, and I just know that because that's my thing. That's the list! I hope you found a cool new character that has inspired you to read more Inhumans comics. They really are an underrated group of heroes and villains in general, so go check them out. Now, go read some comics, and until I see you next, stay nerdy, YouTube.